Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today is finally the day that I want to formally reveal to you the changes that I've made to my office, the set as it were behind me. It was a bigger job than I thought it might be. After all, this is only a 2.5 meter square room. You wouldn't think that one wall, one corner would be that much of a hassle, but actually it was. And I touched on this previously when I sort of pointed out that things had changed behind me, in so much as things were very settled. When I first moved into this office, I put a Billy bookcase in the corner, things built up around that Billy bookcase, and you sort of become comfortable in a space, not so much because it's how you use that space, but rather because that is how the space has always been in your mind. But in recent weeks, we have been reevaluating the entire house, going through what's been deemed a zoning process by a wonderful Clutterbug decluttering YouTube channel, and it's been really useful, really helpful to actually think about what I want in the space behind me, what's actually useful, what I'm going to use, and what I want to use, in fact. And this is something which I've touched on previously when thinking about what do you need, what do you want, how can you really be conscious of that and then go forward with that. So I guess this is another part of that ongoing learning process that I'm certainly party to over the past decade. You know, it just never really stops, and every time you reach another milestone, you feel as though things really should have been like this from the beginning. But then again, you couldn't have got to where you are now had you not been where you were. And I think my lesson that I'm yet to fully learn, but my lesson really in all of this is not to regret the time that you had prior to the new and more useful and more exciting state that you find yourself in, but rather to celebrate the fact that you are now there. And that's what I'm doing today. I want to talk about this office change, this storage and utilitarian change, and really what feels like a much more comfortable corner of my office than it did previously. And it all started with that decision to really change how I was going to use the space, and to bring down the retro consoles from the room above me upstairs, a space that I prepared at the beginning of COVID, in fact, and it was the perfect time to do that, to set up a little retro gaming area, but which became less and less useful and certainly used over time, especially during the holidays. Around Christmas time is when my in-laws will come and stay with us, and they'll often be in the room above me, and it becomes their bedroom, and I don't want to go into their bedroom to be playing Mega Drive, Robocop versus Terminator or something like that. So it therefore didn't get used, and I felt bad about that, and so I wouldn't use it pretty much ever. So it's been about 18 months, 2 years maybe, since I actually played these games. Well, actually it hasn't. Now it's been a day, but up until this point of moving this stuff down here, it had been a while, because of that sort of compounded sense of entrenchment, and I suppose for want of a better word, shame, I guess, that comes with knowing that you have these things and you're not using them. But in order to do this, though, a couple of things had to change in this room. First of all, the Billy bookcase had to go. It had to be emptied of its books. That was no small task. They're now all upstairs, shelf included, in the corner where the retro games were, and they're pretty good there. These need to be sorted a little bit more, but we're happy with them where they are for now. That though wasn't straightforward in terms of movement either, because I didn't really have a solution to replace the corner unit that was upstairs. All I knew was that corner unit was not practical. It's like a hexagonal old style IKEA. I think Billy, I think these days they call it something else, as part of a wardrobe unit. But at the time it was a sort of a mid-90s vintage Billy, which we had inherited from someone else. The big problem with that unit is that you can't get in from the sides. There's only front access. It's essentially a hexagon. So a front and a back surface, and then two side surfaces that come to a point off that. And it's weird. You can put books in there at two angles and they sort of meet in the middle-ish. You can put stuff in there, but you can't really get in from anything other than a dead-on angle. And that was awkward to use up there, but it was going to be even more awkward to use down here. So I had to source something, and I started looking on Facebook Marketplace, of course, and bit by bit gravitated towards something like a kitchen corner unit. Initially I was looking at other bookcases, corner cases, this kind of thing, but they were all going to have similar problems. I needed something that was quite open, and in that sense a corner unit in a kitchen is designed to give you access to cutlery or whatever is on those shelves easily and openly. And eventually I landed on something which I think might be IKEA, might be possibly Next or something like that, but it's a corner unit that was dark wood, that was quite inexpensive. I think it was £20, and that was perfect for this role of taking the games consoles and also mounting a TV on top. However, before I could do any of that, I had to consider other things. First of all, the unit on the floor behind me was a 9 cube square storage unit, a little bit like an IKEA Kallax, but it was too wide if I was going to be putting in the consoles plus as well the computer games on their metal racks, which I got from a friend who works in was working in a van garage, now works in a bike restoration garage, and these metal frames are simply gorgeous. They're very heavy, but they reminded me of sort of 90s video game store shelving. So at the beginning of COVID I made these guys that went next to the bookcase upstairs for the retro gaming corner, but they couldn't sit alongside the storage cube that I had behind me. So I had to slice that up, turn it into a 6 cube unit instead of a 9 cube unit. And that was quite straightforward. Circular saw, drilling some pilot holes, screwing the whole thing together. The weird thing was that I had to change the length of the shelves on the wall. These shelves had been here since I moved in. I put them up when I moved in, along with the Billy bookcase. And the unit that the games and the TV rest on actually interfere with the bottom of those 3 shelves, without a doubt. So I had to slice that up, measure what the difference would be, and again circular saw through. But then also the middle of those 3 shelves just about makes contact with the top of the new unit. So again, that required sort of shoving along a little bit. It was already a shorter shelf. I'd sort of made this sort of higgledy-piggledy design in terms of the 3 shelves when I first did them. Just had to push it along a bit and put some new holes in to attach it to the wall brackets. So that was done. Then it was a case of finding a way to make the corner work. The unit upstairs required a bracket to be put in place on the central one of the fixed non-adjustable shelves in that corner unit. That was made out of MDF with some metal brackets, and it was screwed in place and then had a TV bracket put onto it, so I could mount a suitable television to play my retro consoles on. This one, I used the same bracket. I took it off the old bookshelf, but actually I had to put a 45-degree angle block of wood, a fence post actually, just to hold it up, because there was nothing above it to bracket to hold it up and to provide, I suppose, a counterweight through the unit, so that the TV could hang on it and not tip the whole thing over. And that was quite successful. I was quite happy with how that turned out. But also, we had to rethink the electricity. The power for this corner is off one of the two main switches in this room, in the far corner, and there's an extension cable that runs behind me on the floor, which I plug everything into. And previously that had been on the floor underneath what is a radiator behind me, but that was too low if I was going to be plugging in consoles and the TV at all these different heights. So we had to get a longer extension cable, mount that to the wall actually I probably would mount it now a bit higher than I did. It's actually at the moment mounted in line with the top of this corner unit, and that's a bit awkward for access, especially the plugs far back, but you live and learn. But with all of that in place, I could finally move things into the corner. So consoles, TV, and then game storage were in place, and it was starting to feel like a thing. All that had to happen then, he says with a head bobble, it was putting stuff that I dumped basically on the other side of the room back onto these shelves, and also deciding what the now 6 instead of 9 cube units down there would be storing. And what was interesting was the way that I found, first of all, myself replicating pretty closely what had already been on the shelves behind me, just slightly compressed here and there. And actually I ended up installing another small shelf on the same level as the second shelf, effectively making up the gap that had been part of the higgledy-piggledy design, so that I could double my footprint space and make a Bucky O'Hare and Biker Mice from Mars zone beneath it. But what was interesting was that by carefully thinking about what was going back into the 6 cube units, I actually found myself with an empty one, oddly enough. Previously I had similar categories, but also a couple that were just storage. So an arcade steering wheel and pedals, a flight simulator joystick. Those things had been in one of those cubes for easy access to play with the PC, which is behind the camera, or indeed even on Switch. I used the steering wheel on a racing game. It plugs in via USB to the port there. But they now stack rather nicely behind the TV here. So I hadn't actually lost as much storage as I thought I had by putting this stuff here. I'd actually transferred some of that space into, I guess, a more usable footprint in that sense. So that stuff that doesn't have to be in deep storage, but also doesn't have to be immediately accessible, is now just behind the TV. And that meant that in that spare unit that I found myself with, I ended up putting my card collections, my Go-Go's, and my Pogs. And at some point I'm going to make a video about Go-Go's and Pogs. If not as separate videos, then certainly combined. It's basically a 90s small collectible plaything storage cube now, and for me it's perfect. It just feels functional now. The space behind me feels like it is display where I want it to be display, it's storage where I want it to be storage, and it's usable gameplay space where I want it to be usable gameplay space. And it's fantastic. It feels so comfortable in this room now. The TV was drama. The unit that I had upstairs was working fine when I first created that retro gaming corner, but as I say, it had been the better part of a couple of years since I had sat down to play, and in that time it seemed that something had broken in the TV. I had set up this corner, it was beautiful, I was ready to play, and the speakers were hellish. Yeah, they just sounded terrible, and it was hard to detect initially when playing, for example, the NES Mini, because it's 8-bit sound. I didn't really notice what was missing, but the moment Episode 1 Racer fired up and the level began, it was like listening to twisted tape audio or something that had been played backwards through the devil's own sound system. So the TV had to be replaced, and that was no bad thing, no big thing. It is what it is. I went looking on Facebook Marketplace and found a TV that would work. Crucially, it had to have a SCART input, so it would be compatible with the N64, HDMI for the NES Mini, and ideally, as all TVs do, an old AUX aerial input, which they use for digital signal, but for, in this instance, the Mega Drive and the SNES input. And I found one. £20, seemed to be the right size for the space. The image looked fine. Went and picked it up, installed it. It works. Oh yeah. And the best part is, when dropping off the broken TV at the recycling centre, they had a bucket full of old remotes, and this Toshiba remote is compatible with this Toshiba TV. So I can turn the volume up and down, can change the source, and it's just a random Toshiba model, but clearly uses a very similar signal. Yes! It worked fine until that evening, when, oddly enough, I turned the power on at the wall, and the TV, the LED on the TV went green, but the screen stayed blank. Now, green means it's on, but it was blank, and it wasn't responding to any button inputs at all. Nothing was happening. So I tried again, nothing. The next day I tried, and the LED this time went red, which meant the TV was on standby, and that time it did respond to a button input from the remote. But then the following time it didn't work, and again it didn't work, and again it didn't work. And I'd say 8 out of 10, maybe even 9 out of 10 times, the TV was starting up in a fail state. It was unusable, and I was gutted, absolutely horrified. Not least because I don't really have any cash at the moment. I'm waiting to start a part-time job in September to supplement my income, and I was gutted that I'd spent literally the last £20 note I had at the moment on this TV, and it wasn't working. So we decided to look inside it, and we figured it might be a capacitor. In fact, my friend Rob Charminar on the Discord reckoned it might be a capacitor. So we were looking to see if there's anything obvious that had blown inside the TV, and there was nothing obvious. It was all clean. There wasn't much in the way of moisture ingress, for example. A little bit of dust at the top, you know, where airflow occurs, but apart from that, nothing. And so we were faced with the prospect of, first of all, replacing all the capacitors around the power input area, the power lead socket, and then going out from there, recapituring, if that's a word, recapping the whole power, and then eventually maybe even the TV board itself. And although capacitors aren't expensive, the biggie, by the power, we realised was £8 on its own, and then from there it was going to be 50p, £1, you know, £1.50 here and there throughout the entire TV, with no guarantee of it ever working again. In fact, we might break it in the process of replacing capacitors, which had no visual fault, if you know what I mean. So that prospect was an unknown quantity. I wouldn't know how much it was going to cost. I wouldn't know if it was going to work. And so I decided to have another look on Facebook, and I came across this TV. It's an LG for £10. It's a larger screen, 24-inch instead of 22-inch, but it fits within the same TV width, the same model unit width in total. So it's a bigger screen, same size TV, SCART input, HDMI input, and obviously input for the Mega Drive. The remote is came with the TV, and I've magnetized it. Actually, I was magnetizing all of them all the way through. Kept them having to pop pop magnets off the remotes for the TVs that wouldn't work, and magnetize it so it just sticks to the metal shelves here. Thing of beauty, and it works every time. It's a newer TV as well, so it's not going to go bust anytime soon, hopefully. But that was the final big hurdle. This is the reason why I was delayed in talking about this to you, was that I wanted it to be actually working, and now it is, and it's wonderful to be able to just turn on at the wall, turn on what I want to play, and just enjoy myself. The finishing touches were flourishes of decoration. On the wall up above the TV, I framed and hung a Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening poster that I recently got off the Platinum Point store on the Nintendo website. I brought down from the room upstairs a Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic and Tails escaping from Dr. Eggman picture that I got off somewhere years ago. I hung on the wall a little Sonic the Hedgehog play set that had just been gathering dust on top of the retro games corner shelf upstairs, and I also mounted a little light up mushroom, because that was a present from a friend, and I'd never quite known what to do with it, where to put it, but now it's part of that setup, it's part of that atmosphere, and I love it. It's all so comfortable. It's all working really well together as a space. So I suppose we should now take a closer look. Okay, I've switched cameras, and we're going to start down here at the bottom of the unit that rests behind me when I'm filming. This was the 9 cube unit reduced to a 6 cube unit, and next to it we have a whole lot of storage tucked in behind the door. This is the office door, itself a storage solution, not least for my badges and all of my sunglasses up there. So here we have my microscope, a mini Boglins box, HMS Victory mini model. I'll talk about that in a future video, I think. Some posters in storage, a practice sword, a stick, and my pool cue tucked behind the door. The stick is from my time as a Viking at the Orvik Centre, in fact. And the cubes are actually really nicely sorted. I really like the way that, for example, now we have this cube here, which has some Star Wars thematic things, a collection of 3 Star Wars quizzes, which is really interesting, not least because of the way that canon has shifted over the years. A book of Star Wars Topps collectible cards, so the complete library of the cards, data file, Tazos, that kind of thing, and then generic 90s stuff. So we have here, Right Said Fred, Wonder Man from the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 soundtrack, yeah, and a Mighty Max, kind of like a Tiger handheld LCD playable game there. In the next unit are my Go-Go's, and actually this is the whole thing. The Go-Go's container is from the mid-2000s re-release of Go-Go's. My Go-Go's are the originals from the mid-90s. And I also have the 25p Go-Go's instruction and sticker album, which also as well actually really nicely covers the history of the game. So like knuckle bones in ancient Greece, this kind of thing, really nice. But the storage isn't the right one for this run of Go-Go's, this original run of Go-Go's. And I came across a lunchbox that was Go-Go's and Skips, sort of brand of crisps, that was going for £20. And I stupidly said, will you take 16 on the eBay listing? And then someone else swooped in and paid the full 20 and got it. So I got this as a backup. I quite like it though. I mean, it's not perfect, but it is a really nice, actually really nice container. Not a glossy finish, as so many of these sorts of cases are. It's actually a sort of a matte with a slight sort of printed gloss effect on it. Some label residue there. But it'll do for now until I find the Go-Go's Skips lunchbox again. But that thing, as far as I can tell, is unique. I haven't seen another one online at all. So Go-Go's box of Pogs. This was actually my dad's old toolbox from his job as a telecommunications engineer, and 2 cases containing a collection of Blair Witch cards, Mega Drive cards, and Jurassic Park cards. I'll have to show those in a future video, I think, as well. We have a zombies themed cube along with a Mighty Boosh annual for some reason. It just seemed to work. Here we have the X-Files and Stranger Things with the Ready Player 1 and Ready Player 2 novels thrown in for good measure. This is my pride and joy, the Usborne Adventures and Puzzles shelf. What a collection. I love these things. And then here we have a sort of 90s gaming library, which actually I'm really quite interested to take a closer look at these guys. This is for example, the instruction manual. Oop. There goes a bouncy ball. This is an instruction manual for the ZX Sinclair Spectrum, which I wrecked my dad's version when I was a baby. He never let me forget it. But I've noticed that recently they've re-released the ZX Spectrum as a HDMI compatible unit that does a lot of the things that the original did. You can program in games. It also comes with some of these games loaded on. I think actually War in Middle-earth is one of the games that's on the unit. Certainly The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, I think. So I'm fascinated to give that a go. Probably for my birthday. We're going to pick it up from Argos and give it a spin, just to see what it was like having to load your games often from text, in fact. And then a whole load of Nintendo adventure books, kind of choose your own adventure, and also loads of tips and tricks books that came with like Games Master magazine, that kind of thing. So those are, I think, well ordered cubes now behind me, with no cross-contamination, not too much in the way of what's that doing there, and I love it. Up above we have the Indiana Jones Temple Escape Lego set, which I got during COVID. Incomplete. I've talked about this in a previous video, but I had to make a boulder for the set, but that works quite nicely up on there, along with a couple of other things, including Zombie Kenny, which I found on a building site. He's a bit broken, but that's perfect because he's a zombie. And then we have here my Bucky O'Hare and Biker Mice from Mars hiding beneath the new sort of shelf that I put in just here to hold all these guys, including my beloved Brownie, Teddy, some Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. Next to Bucky, we have Mighty Max and my Addams Family Polly Pocket, of course. A Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator play figure in front of the Tetris lamp, and alien stuff Yes, Aliens toys. I love these guys, with a Predator just behind them, and the lollipop from Trick or Treat, Sam's lollipop, which again I adore. Up here, you've already seen a peek of my Spider-Man section. I really want to do a video looking at little play sets, and this is one of them. Mysterio versus Spider-Man inside this guy. Moving along, we have Transformers as well. Recently, obviously, I talked about Soundwave, the 40th anniversary reissue of the G1 style Soundwave. And also this guy here, who is a transforming burger from a Happy Meal. One of my oldest and favourite little toys. Up top, things really haven't changed much at all. On the shelf, at least, we have the Enterprise mounted on this gooseneck, and Thunderbirds, Deadpool, the Crow, Doctor Who TARDIS, one of my favourite centre consoles from the TARDIS there. Some Tron stuff. Batman horse, that's a horse, yes, wearing the Bat's costume. I do not know why. And Buzz Lightyear in front of, what's her name? She's from Vampire Hunter D, anyway. A really interesting bust, emphasis on bust, apparently. And also Mr. Bump, because he's my spirit animal. Simple as that. Oh, also, yeah, so yeah, my Licorice All Sorts collection of vintage vans and stuff. I quite like that. And then on to the actual retro gaming area. I suppose starting up top, you can see the framed poster and the Sonic the Hedgehog art there, which I really like that image, actually. Dr. Robotnik throwing spears at Sonic and Tails next to the play set that I've mounted just here. And all of that's next to Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. A wonderful poster that's been up there for years. Love it. I just love that all of this now is on the same level. The TV, as I say, mounted to the top of the unit with the steering wheel and pedals and N64 controller box stacked behind it, all supported by that fence post at 45 degrees, as you can see. This guy was living upstairs, and he is, next to my teddy, probably my most well-travelled and stalwart companion. I don't have a name for him, he's just Troll, but he is my little friend, and I'm so pleased that he's here now. Dead center. Oh, lovely. Samus guarding the NES Mini, a little Star Trek communicator. Yep. I don't know why that's there, actually. I have to move that. We have Metalhead, a little sister, Big Daddy, Robocop versus Terminator, and of course Slime. This is a 25th anniversary Dragon Quest Slime, just there. And also, actually, probably my first ever Transformer. This guy is fascinating. He's a cube that, oh, hang on, awkward, that transforms into a little guy, a little firefighter, apparently. And I've looked online, I found the catalogue, apparently from Italy, originally, these toys. And I'm going to repaint his face, I think, just because he deserves his face, in a little triangle on his hat back, methinks. But yeah, I have to forgive my dirty nail there, sorry. Yeah, just a wonderful little clever cube, which I think might have been one of the reasons why I absolutely love Transformers. Let me put that back, just there. And here we have my games. I suppose we'll start with the Mega Drive games up here, including, of course, the original of my channel's logo from Frog Tree Comics. Fantastic. And yeah, the Mega Drive with some old, I think, Happy Meal Sonic the Hedgehog toys there. Some bead art in the style of Pac-Man. These guys, these monsters. Oh, I remember those. Collecting loads of those when I was a kid. These are the ones that survived. More Mega Drive. This guy here is this guy is a game. Sonic. Next to Sonic, we have Terminator 2 Judgment Day in a fascinating form factor by Ocean. I just really like the packaging of it. It just screams what it is, really. Terminator 2 computer game by the infamous LJN. And then here we have the final Mega Drive games down the bottom. Also, TV Boy. This guy plugs in to the TV directly and plays Atari. Oh, I think Atari 2600 games. Fantastic, really weird little system. Clearly borderline knockoff, possibly licensed in the mid-90s, but my granddad got that from a marketplace, literally a market for me. And I really enjoy the Star Wars game, Battle of Hoth. Lots of fun. Down the bottom on the console shelf, I have a storage box, a Panda bus, filled with extra game controllers and peripherals, this kind of thing. A couple of joysticks just there. And also here, you might be interested, this is the remnants of a console that my dad had as a kid, I think. The only thing left is the lid of the box that it came in. TV Sport, like a light gun game. And the instructions, which were typewritten, it seems, with a sort of maybe a copied, photocopied diagram, hand-drawn diagram of the console, how it connects to the TV, and then these typewritten instructions here. I just thought it was really interesting. And so even from when I was a small kid, I've looked after this. And now it's just tucked amongst my fond retro gaming memories, I suppose. Yeah. On to... Oh, actually, look. I've mounted this bead art here, just in this corner of the office, underneath my office chair. Olimar and Pikmin versus one of the monsters from that game. There's my pet log, by the way. On to FIFA, though. FIFA, Captain America and the Avengers, Psycho Pinball, legendary, and the Shaq Fu, equally legendary. Ghouls and Ghosts, up we go. This troll here is actually one I got later in life, but it's part Terminator for some reason. I might paint the cybernetics with metallic paint at some point, just to give him that look. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll see if he's in any way worthwhile protecting as he is. We have SNES games. Most of these were my brother-in-law's, next to the SNES on the shelf there. Various titles, which at some point I can always go through in a video. N64 games. This is the original box that my brother and I made to store all of our N64 games. Obviously, GoldenEye and Episode 1 Racer there. More N64 games, including, as well at this level, my magnetised TV remote, which I'm very pleased with. And we're back. Of course, we have the TV and that wonderful light up mushroom. And as part of this process as well, I had to just rejig some of the storage up here as well. So, for example, the Star Trek ships moved up here, along with a couple of other bits and bobs. And so, all in all, I'm really, really happy with how this space has worked out. It's functional in terms of storage, it's accessible in terms of use, and it's comfortable in terms of how it fits into this space. There it is next to my office chair, and in turn, my desk. So there we have it, my new man cave corner gaming area, the new setup for this side of my office, and I am chuffed. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this has been interesting, or at the very least in some way entertaining. Until next time, do take care. Bye bye.